Yep, we're live once again. It's a Super Sunday, and we're here to review 3 games, including the fantastic Ashes rivalry. And thankfully, that result went our way, at least the way we wanted it to go. So happy with that. Jeet, bhai, kya haal hai? Netherlands, South Africa, Australia, England, Uganda, West Indies. Happy with the games at least?
Australia, England for sure, yeah. Very happy because, like we mentioned yesterday, we were more than happy to see Australia win, only because Scotland's chances increased to actually make it through to the Super 8s. So we got the result that we wanted as far as that game is concerned. It was good margin as well by which Australia won. So more than happy with that. Baki to yaar, theek yaar. West Indies, Uganda is something that was very much anticipated. And first game, however, having said that, almost, the Dutch almost pulled it off, but never mind.
Never mind, definitely. I mean, happy with the fact that they at least were able to put up a fight because first innings ke baad lag raha tha, we know South Africa, Sri Lanka, maybe South Africa sort of struggled a bit, but फिर भी लग रहा था कि they will come good. 12 for 4 पे था, I was all pumped, especially with the wicket of class. I was like, bro, come on, are we in for an encore? Unfortunately, not to be the case. David Miller standing in between Netherlands and a historic victory against the Proteas, but nonetheless, even then, they can definitely walk out of the stadium with their heads held high with a fantastic performance. The only thing for us as viewers is कि बॉस न्यूयॉर्क में चल क्या रहा है यार, क्योंकि इंडिया और पाकिस्तान का गेम भी आज उसी स्ट्रिप पे होने वाला है. Clearly it's going to be a win the toss, potentially win the game sort of a situation, because we've seen how first innings ka first half is almost unbattable. Jeet, what do you make of that? Okay, before we get into the games and everything, let's have this thing out. नहीं तो फिर से मेरे को लात पड़ेगी अपने वीडियो एडिटर से. कहाँ है भाई इस thing? चलाते हैं. Well, about last night, and last night we saw South Africa take on Netherlands in New York. That game happened at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time yesterday. Jeet, again, the same question, just continuing it. We've seen how the surface has played in New York in the past few games. We know India-Pakistan tonight, which has been built so heavily all over the globe, is going to be played on the same strip as yesterday. Kya lagta hai? What's up there?
It's been a horrible pitch. So it was just yesterday that I was going through all the average scores that have taken place in the first 4 games that have taken place at New York, and the average first inning score was 103. That is so low. Now coming to yesterday's game, they said it's going to be a new pitch altogether, pitch number 2. But still, the way it behaved was very, very similar. There was barely anything that was quite different from the 3 games that had happened prior to that game. So it's been quite horrible. For tonight, I think they said it's either pitch number 2 or pitch number 4. Now, pitch number 2 is where yesterday's game happened, and pitch number 4 is where India versus Ireland happened. Both of which have been horrible. So I don't see how anything is going to change because the scores have been very low, irrespectively. What has caught my attention is also the outfield. Yesterday, some of the shots that were being played from both the sides, whether it's the Netherlands or South Africa, they were absolutely timing the pants out of it. So when they were actually hitting that shot, I was like, okay, this is going for a boundary. But it was completely stopping in the outfield. It was not even getting close to the boundary line. So the outfield also has been equally bad. They talked about how much thick grass they've got, and they had actually trimmed it as well. But despite trimming it, this is still the situation that we are seeing. So neither has the pitch been good, nor has the outfield. So I don't know what's the solution for that, because it's clearly not working out. And I won't be surprised if that continues tonight as well with the kind of bowlers we have got.
But the thing is, if it becomes so toss dependent, I can only imagine like either side. Like imagine if Pakistan win the toss, they like so Shaheen, Haris, Naseem, Mohammad Amir, of course, not to forget, all 4 of them bowling in the first 10 overs. It'll be very, very, very difficult for the Indian batters then.
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 games have been won by teams that have chased. But at least the good side of that is that even the chasing team has gotten into trouble early on. In the first 10 overs, even they have found struggling quite a lot, losing 4 or 5 wickets. So it's been quite even Stevens during the chase as well. So it has all come down to the team batting first, targeting those 15 to 20 extra runs, because those 15 to 20 runs could actually end up being the difference by the end of the day. So that's how I look at it. If India are scoring 120, or if say 120 is good enough, then they should be looking at 135 or 140, and that might actually turn out to be enough to defend it. because second innings at the end of the day is playing quite similarly for the first 10 overs at least. Only it's after that that slightly better when the ball gets softer and older. So yeah, probably that 15-20 runs is a margin that the team batting first should look to.
Fair enough. In fact, funnily enough, in terms of how the surface is played, despite it being slow and the outfield also not helping, spinners have been a lot more easier to attack that way. So maybe both sides will be keeping a keen eye on who are the bowlers that the opposition is going to bring in. Imad Wasim potentially expected to sort of make a comeback. So anyways, lots to talk about in terms of yesterday's game. So let's start with that. We've of course got Pramod Bhai as well up and running. Let's add him. Hello, Pramod Bhai. Let's have the match summary on first, of course. Netherlands, South Africa. There we go. South Africa winning the toss and, of course, asking the Dutch to bat first. And as expected, off the surface in New York, the new ball wreaked havoc. In Bartman, Nokia, all of them were practically unplayable. Of course, not to forget Marco Janssen himself. Cybrand Engelbrecht was the highest run scorer, ensured that at least एक end से तो wicket नहीं गया, so that sort of worked in their favor. Logan van Beek also sort of came up with a decent enough partnership with Engelbrecht towards the end, but nothing much to look at in terms of their batting numbers. Otniel Bartman, the pick of the bowlers for the Proteas, 4 for 11 for him. South Africa, in reply, of course, did start off horrifyingly 12 for 4 at a certain point in time. Almost looked like he was yahan se to Netherlands ही जीतेगा. But David Miller and Tristan Stubbs came up with a fantastic counter-attacking partnership. Can't necessarily call it attacking, but a counter partnership. Probably I'll just put it that way. Before Stubbs himself was dismissed by Bas de Leeuw, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, for them, pick of the bowlers, Vivian Kingma doing well, including taking the important wicket off Andre Klaasen in the power play itself. Pramod Bhai, let's start with you. Netherlands, South Africa. They definitely made a game out of nothing there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was saying yesterday, if Netherlands put some runs on the board, they will really fight right till the end to sort of get over the line. But yeah, even yesterday, 104, about 15-20 runs short on that pitch. But at 12 for 4, you really have to sort of give a little bit of edge to the Netherlands. But it's never really over till David Miller is there. There is it. So yeah, credit to David Miller. He just played with a really cool, calm mind. Stitched that good partnership with Stubbs, and got the Proteas home. So well done to him.
Well done to him for sure. And Jeet, in terms of how sort of the Dutch pacers bowled and the South African pacers bowled, both teams will take a lot of heart, right? Because South Africa themselves will be playing another game here. They're scheduled to face Nepal, if I'm not wrong, in New York. That's already probably the results a foregone conclusion there.
It's not sounding good, is it? But so you talked about how spinners have been quite ineffective at this really. So out of the 49 wickets that the bowlers have taken, 40 have gone to pace. So that pretty much tells you how much they've enjoyed bowling on this track because of the variable bounce that has been a factor with the drop in pitches altogether. So when it started yesterday itself, I was talking about how there is a chance that the South African pacers could blast off the Dutch batters and could probably restrict them to below 120. They finished with 103 altogether. And I was like, okay, it's potentially gone. They were 46 for 6 before Cybrand turned it around and Logan van Beek things down the order of chipping in when his team needed it. The bowlers were sensational altogether, especially Otniel Bartman again. So first of all, I'm very happy that South Africa are going ahead with Bartman over Gerald Coetzee because so far it's been Coetzee who's been getting the nod and he has been the regular fixture on the particular side. But they bat Otniel Bartman and he's been phenomenal in every game so far. So that's very, very heartening to see. So at the halfway mark, I thought, okay, it's probably game done and dusted. 103 may not be enough, which is exactly bang average first inning score at this particular venue. But then 0 for 1. And I was actually about to crash out because I was like, okay, the game is done now. Let me just grab some sleep for a couple of hours before I have a long night again. So start with 0 for 1. I was like, all right, okay. Then 3 for 2 and then 3 for 3, which again got me up. I started the television again. So outstanding bowling from Vivian Kingma to begin with, which is something I was not anticipating because I thought, okay, Quinton de Kock might actually hang in this. So they'll have that right-hand, left-hand combination. And Vivian Kingma's in-swing to Quinton de Kock, he should be able to negotiate. But Quinton de Kock was gone for a diamond duck. And then the doors opened up for Vivian Kingma to excel, which he did quite sensationally well. And then Paul van Meekeren and Logan van Beek, we expected that kind of bowling from them because they are very, very good at hitting the right lines and lengths and targeting the stumps. And they did that perfectly well. And of course, South African batters had no answer to that. What came as the massive surprise, Heinrich Klaasen's dismissal. Now that is where you've got to put it to Klaasen himself. You have one fielder the deep on the leg side and you picked him up to perfection. And Tim Pringle luckily held on to it. So at 12 for 4, I thought the game was done before, of course, David Miller played a sensational knock alongside Tristan Stubbs. And man, he just romped it home altogether. And that last over where he faced Bars to lead and the kind of shots that he hit, outstanding. The one through the covers, the lofted cover drive, and then the winning shot. And even the celebration, that pretty much told you everything about how pumped he was and how much this win meant to him. Because, of course, they could have lost this game. So that celebration and the emotions that came out of David Miller was a huge, huge story in itself.
Definitely, and towards the end, to be honest, I felt that, in a bit to sort of keep attacking those lengths, the Dutch bowlers just erred a bit in their lines. They sort of bowled it a bit too straight, and every time they erred in their line, they would tong for a six, not even a boundary. Miller twice sort of, depositing it past the deep fine leg fence, and Tristan Stubbs as well once past the cow corner fence. वहां पे मतलब just 2-3 sort of balls in the right areas, potentially the match could have still hung in balance till the last over. But of course, what ifs are what ifs. And Pramod, in terms of how the Dutch bowlers themselves bowl, Logan Farnby is the name that Jeet mentioned. First, we saw his ability to sort of get the ball to seam, importantly, because moving the ball in the air is something they have other pacers also for. But his sort of ability to do that will definitely hold them in good stead, right? Because they now are well and truly in contention for a Super 8 spot, because they'll be vying for that spot against Sri Lanka and Bangladesh.
Yeah, what a ball to dismiss Reza Hendricks there. That was like a dream ball for any right-hand pacer. So that was a superb start. I think the stone was already set with Quinton de Kock needlessly getting out in the first ball. So that would have definitely egged the Dutch on a little bit more. And Van Beek, how long has he been doing this for the Netherlands? He's a top-class bowler among probably, top 10, top 15 in the world when it comes to bowling, especially in that power play. He makes good use of the conditions early on. And yesterday, the pitch also sort of suited him. There was a very little to almost no swing, but there was some movement of the pitch that sort of he worked with. And yeah, I think he bowled an excellent spell. Just 10 more runs. Had the Dutch got 10, 15 more runs, that was the main crux of it. But yeah, nevertheless, a good bowling performance, and he was well supported as well at the other end. I don't think anybody particularly leaked runs except that probably that one over from Jeet that went for about 11, 12 runs. That probably sort of opened the shackles a little bit. But yeah, overall, a good display. I don't think Netherlands should be too disappointed with the way they bowled. And yeah, I think Van Beek has proved to be the leader of the pack for some time, and I'm delighted that he's continuing to do so.
100%. Then meanwhile, yeah.
No kidding. There was one time when South Africa got 12 for 4 when I was thinking that, Themba Boma is saying, he might have been handy over here. So I was thinking about my statement yesterday.
I was thinking about Themba Boma and Jeet the entire game, by the way. But anyways, meanwhile, of course, Prayash and Imtiaz correcting me. Apologies for that. The game against Nepal is in St. Lucia, not New York, of course. It's the game against Bangladesh that's happening in New York. That's coming that's coming live from New York, of course, on the 10th of June, local time. Local time, of course. So not sure India mein wo 10th ko hai ki 9th ko hai. That we'll in due course let you know jab wo match aayega. But again, Jeet, in terms of how South Africa's batting sort of almost imploded there big time, has to be the case that their top performer was David Miller. What a fantastic knock from the guy there.
Outstanding knock here, and that is what experience does. We were talking about how South Africa is reliant on their middle order batters in Miller, Klaasen, and Tristan Stubbs, given the kind of form they are coming into this particular tournament. So South Africa promoted Tristan Stubbs. That was a good call, and that shielded David Miller and delayed his entry point. And then what unfolded after that was a fantastic knock altogether. He paced it really well, and he took the responsibility of dragging the game, taking it deep as the wickets were still falling from the other end when even Tristan Stubbs was dismissed. So he had to put his hand up and show that experience, and he was phenomenal. So even at the very back end, when Keshav Maharaj was batting alongside him, they required 16 of 12 or something. I think that was what the equation had come down to. So even at that point in time, Miller denied a single of the last ball because he wanted to keep strike for the next over. And that next over came, which was Baz leader, and he demolished it altogether. He just wrapped it up with 4 balls. That's all it took. So that was very, 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 very smart on his part, and he showed that experience as well to put his hand up and get the job done for his team whilst the other batters were struggling.
Definitely stepped up for his side there. Imtiaz, meanwhile, saying, indeed, playing at a strike rate of over 110 on New York's pitch is not a matter of joke. I don't know if he's being sarcastic here, but it is true. It really is true. If you have a strike rate of over 100 and if you face 20, 30 balls, not even 50, you've done your job, bro. Like Logan Farnby, for example, 23 of 22, that's exactly the kind of knock they wanted. Unfortunately, Scott Edwards, I felt, would have been the batter for them, given the surface. Bhai sahab, yaar, all key batters, like what's up with key batters running themselves out, yeah? We've seen this in the last 4 or 5 games, if I'm not wrong. Every game we've seen someone or the other just running themselves out. I remember JJ Spitt also against, who was it, Scotland? Yeah, just again, not sure what's happening there. But Pramod, again, David Miller's knock, definitely, because given how South Africa have always been labelled as chokers, for him to be able to come good, sure, the opposition might not be the strongest, but they've had the wood over them in the last 2 games. So they should be thrilled with the kind of win they've able to secure here.
Yeah, I mean they can still choke. The semifinals are not too far away, but yeah, I think Miller was the difference between the two sides in the end. There's no doubt, and yeah, they should be pleased with this win. Yeah, since Netherlands have been their bogey team for the last 2 World Cups. And as you mentioned, that expression, that celebration said it all from Miller. Gone are the days when you say, we are just meeting Netherlands, no big deal, sort of a thing. Now I think every team every team in this 20-team World Cup is strong enough to defeat any team on their day, and nothing can be taken lightly. And yeah, Miller really, I think he just buckled down when they were 12 for 4 and got them home, which was great to see.
It'll be interesting to see how South Africa now play against Bangladesh, because once again that game's also coming live from New York. South African pacers will have their tail up. Again, like Jeet also mentioned, to be honest, it's not just the first innings, it's the first half of both innings where batters tend to struggle. It's the new ball basically. So Bangladesh will have the task cut out for them while facing the likes of Bartman, Nokia, Janssen. It's definitely not going to be easy there. Time for us to now move on to the second game that happened. Australia versus England in Barbados. All 3 of us in unison had spoken about how we all are rooting for Aussies to come over the Poms to sort of ensure Scotland still stay alive with a solid chance. And that's exactly what happened. Let's have the match summary out first. England, of course, winning the toss, opting to bowl first, and almost foolishly giving the ball to Moeen Ali and Will Jacks. एक over दे देते starting में समझ आता, but yeah, they sort of ended up being a bit too greedy. Gave a second over as well to the off spinner, and boy was he punished. 22 runs coming off of it. That sort of set the tone for the Aussies. Ended the power play at 74. Ended their innings with 201, with no batter crossing the 40-run mark. Their highest scorer was Mitchell Marsh, who scored 35. There was 35 from Marsh, 34 from Head, 30 from Stoinis, Warner, Maxwell, both of them chipping with crucial cameos themselves. All of sort of made sure it was a very well-rounded batting performance from them. And then England in reply were really never in the game. They started off strongly short, both Will Salt and Josh Butler attacking the bowlers. Mitchell Starc in particular copping a few blows. He went for 37 in his 3 overs, but uske baad Pat Cummins and Adam Zampa, both of them ensured that the game wasn't going beyond them. Pramod bhai, let's start with you again. You expected England to come hard at Australia, but again, a loss by 36 runs is something even we did not see coming.
Yeah, an interesting game actually. The way Warner and Head played in the first 6, we knew that was going to be the crucial sort of phase in the game, and they got 74 runs, which was great. And from then on, once they were dismissed of back-to-back deliveries, nobody in the middle order really threw it away. They all didn't score many, but just did the 30, 35, 40 odd runs that took them past 200. And I don't think it was a 200 sort of a track at all. Maybe about 170 would have been like par or something like that. And coming to England, I think they started off well again. 70 for no loss in 7 overs was a great start, a great platform set. But once they lost Salt and Butler back to back, you'd expect at least Butler to bat till about the 15th over, 16th over. With others batting around him, it could have been a much closer contest. And the way Australia bowled in the middle overs, I think there was a phase for about 30 or 35 balls when they didn't concede a single boundary. I think that's a massive achievement, especially when the opposition is chasing over 200. And I think that's a phase where probably Australia really went well ahead in the game and never let go of that strength position of strength.
Fair enough, Jeet. In terms of the surface, you agree with Pramod there? Like, was it a 200 surface, or do you think Aussies got at least 20, 30 runs above par over there?
No, Pramod is spot on, because my view also was very, very similar when I was watching that innings. That this is not even a 200 pitch. It's probably 170 tops, 175 if you play really well, or even 180 if you play really well. The problem was the planning. England's planning was absolutely horrendous to begin with. And it's only later on the power play that they realized that, okay, you know what, the off-cutters are probably walking over here, and that's probably the way to go, change the pace and everything for the pacers. And that's the advantage that, the team that bowls second always has. They look at what is working for the team that's bowling first, and all they have to do is just implement that when they are bowling. So even besides that, I believe that the Australian pacers were very smart in terms of what they bowled. They didn't get predictable. They were bowling the Yorkers. They were bowling shorter deliveries as well from time to time, and they were, varying the pace as well. So they were very smart with that. But England, of course, being England, it's very similar to the 50 overs World Cup. When they had announced the squad, I was like, dude, you're not learning. And this time around, you're going to get hammered. And that's exactly what happened in the 50 overs World Cup. The same story happened in a T20 World Cup as well, when they announced the squad before the Pakistan T20I series. I looked at the squad and I was like, dude, again, no way. You guys are not learning. You're not understanding. This squad is not cut out. It's not going to probably, win you the World Cup, win you the T20 World Cup. So I was not really surprised. First of all, the wrong squad is being picked. Now, from that wrong squad, they are picking the wrong playing 11 altogether. And then come the tactics, which are absolutely woeful. I've got no explanation whatsoever. So, like you mentioned about more early bowling the first over, that's fine. It's something that we did anticipate. But then Will Jacks was more like out of the syllabus, and it was clearly a pre-planned strategy. It was something that I'm sure was discussed before the match began. That, hey, you know what, let's just start with two off spinners because we have David Ball and Travis Head who are facing. And that's the reason why yesterday I mentioned that, you know what, if England are smart enough, they will add Reece Topley over Mark Wood. Because at the end of the day, you don't want two bowlers doing the same thing. You don't need two extra spacers against a team like Australia. You're not facing a team that you will be able to blast off with extra space altogether. You need variety in your bowling department, and you've got two left-arm pacers on your side. So why not add Reece Topley, who could, dismiss Travis Head early, or even Mitch Marsh, because both have weakness. But for some weird reason, they continue with the same thing. And it just didn't work out, and they just completely tapered off as the innings progressed.
I mean, couldn't agree with you more there, because in terms of tactics, so it just seemed bizarre to say the least, because some of those bowling changes, some of those efforts just did not sort of, warrant the kind of performance, especially given that they knew how big a game this was going to be, given how the Scottish game had been rained out and they had to share points there. So this was important for them to gain those two. I mean, it was important for them to gain those 2 points here to sort of ensure that, boss, Scotland can be kept at bay over there, but clearly not to be the case. Nani Code going on to say, just bad bowling by Wood. Didn't they know Warner is a good player, or rather is not a good player offside, since he's changed to that open stance? पता नहीं भाई, लगता है वो अपना homework करके नहीं आए वहाँ पे. But Pramod, again, like one change, sort of both you and Jeet had spoken about was, Reece Topley coming in instead of Mark Wood, add a bit of variety and also sort of improves the overall, effectiveness of that bowling attack. They've clearly stuck to Mark Wood. what is it? Is it that X factor? Is it that pace that sort of gives Mark with the edge over Reece Topley? Or do you think there are potential injury concerns over there? Have you heard anything about it?
No, I've not heard anything about any injuries to Reece Topley or anything. But I think in Barbados, where the wind often plays a crucial part. Yesterday we saw the longer side of the boundary when the batsman hit there, the wind sort of held the ball back in, and there were catches. So in that aspect, I think Reece Topley would have been a good. He's not an out-and-out fast bowler. He swings the ball and he hits the right areas and stuff like that. So I think Australia really loved that extra pace that they found with Wood and Archer, and I think So I think going ahead, hopefully they get in Reece Topley, and as Jeet said, Topley has a good matchup against left-handed batters as well. So that's probably the one. I think, especially in Barbados, I was just reading a few of what players had to say. They said that the wind really, they knew there was going to be wind in Barbados that comes into play, and with the longer side of the boundary, it's easier to sort of make the batsman hit there and get a catch, which I think Australia did quite well. Bowled those cutters first, especially that best of dismissal where Josh Hazlewood, I think, bowled that cutter, and he held out a deep mid wicket. Probably on the other side of the fence that could have gone all the way, but in that particular direction, that shot was not good enough, but it was well executed and well thought of by Australia.
Yeah, man, wind has definitely been a big factor over here. We saw in the Scotland-Namibia game as well, both skippers alluding to the fact that wind has played a role in terms of how they planned two certain batters in terms of which directions to force them to hit and all of that. But Jeet, surely now at least England will sort of, try and look past Mark Wood. Or do you think they'll persist with him?
Against a game that they had against Scotland, they went ahead with Wood and Archer, and I was like, okay, maybe these guys are being complacent, or they're like probably taking it too lightly. Each other Scotland, and let's just have two express pacers and blast them off. And it didn't work out. So I was like, I don't think that was their original plan. So they'll probably have some kind of sense to actually not stick to that same plan against Australia, because there is no point bowling express pace against the Australian batters, that two of them. So that is where I was expecting Reece Topley. And now, if I look into it a little more in depth, I feel there will be more sense to not only have Reece Topley, but also have Sam Curran walking ahead of Chris Jordan. Chris Jordan by Barbados connection, West Indian by Bhul Jao Sab. This is international cricket. And Chris Jordan is way past his peak. We are not living in 2016 or 2017 where he was able to nail his Yorkers at the death. This guy's only working in the blast. This guy's only working in the 100 back home. That's it. International cricket, no. You've got Sam Curran, who is also going to add a lot of variety with the bat, because you need a left-handed batter as well. So you can always have him bat higher up the order if required. Johnny Bairstow is struggling. Have Sam Curran at 4 if you don't want Ben Duckett. And secondly, of course, those off cutters and those kind of variations also would be really, really handy. And that is exactly what Sam Curran brings to the table as well. Bhai, uska bhi Yorker itna kharab nahi hai. If you're backing Chris Jordan to bowl those Yorkers, which he's not able to bowl or execute really well, why not go for Sam Curran? He's got more variations and he's got a lot more experience. And at the end of the day, the last time when he won the T20 World Cup, he was not only your player of the match in the finals, but also the player of the tournament. And this time he's not even in the starting 11. So not only does Reece Topley needs to come in for Mark Wood, but also Sam Curran needs to be contemplated ahead of Chris Jordan. If you want to get rid of Johnny Bairstow, I don't mind. Personally, he would have been my starting 11, and he has been. It's just that he's also woefully out of form, and it's not really working out. And of course, we're talking about the wind factor and boundary dimensions and everything, and why it's important to have a left-hander in your top 5. England has none of them, just like Ireland. These are the only teams to have no left-handers in the top 5. So that's where Ben Duckett probably comes in. And if you don't want Ben Duckett, then Sam Curran is an option to fix that issue as well.
Interesting names, those. Let us see how do sort of, England look at this potential promotion to Moeen Ali at the very least. If they want to sort of spice things up. Because yesterday, for what it's worth, did not have the worst of days, both with the ball and bat in hand. So you've got to give them credit over there. So if at the very least, if they don't want to bring in and tweak their bowling plans, जो existing resources है उन्हीं को use कर लो ढंग से कुछ अगर again only if and when necessary, they don't of course have to come up with a fixed position for anyone over there. M Rajesh meanwhile asking us a very pertinent question. Is there a watch along for today's match? Of course, there's a watch along for today's match. It's India taking on Pakistan from New York. The game starts at 8 p.m. sharp, Indian Standard Time. We will be doing a watch along for that. Avnish, Nikhil, and Vikas, all three of them will be reacting to it. So make sure you guys tune in to our channel at 8 p.m. sharp. So that's taken care of. Priyanshu, meanwhile, asking us, so is it England or Scotland from this group? If you're asking us who we want, I'm pretty sure I'm answering for everyone when I say Scotland. But who do you think will make it after yesterday's result if you have to put a number to it in terms of odds? I'll start. I'll say England still are favourites to make it through to the playoffs because they have games against Oman and Namibia, and they know कि boss अभी net run rate पे ही आने वाला है, so they are going to go all guns blazing. And England have a better chance of sort of blowing their opponents away when it comes to Namibia and Oman than say Scotland. So I'll say 55-45. 55% England, 45% Scotland. Those are the odds I'm going with. Jeet, what about you?
The same number, the same percentage for me as well. It's just that I'm tilting towards Scotland because that high risk approach of England could backfire as well. Because at the end of the day, the Namibian bowlers or the Oman bowlers are no slouch. And this is the T20 format and anything can happen. You can't be taking these kind of opponents lightly either. To be fair, the likes of Oman and Namibia planned better in the game than England have so far. So that is not a promising sign from the England's perspective as well. So I wouldn't really put it past Scotland to just about edge England with the net run rate.
Fair enough. Pramod bhai, what about you?
ये भी कोई पूछने वाली बात है. Of course, I want Scotland to go through, but yeah,
No,
yeah,
not what you want.
I know what the question is.
Realistically.
Yeah, realistically, they do have a chance, of course. I think they're just playing Oman and Australia next. I think if they get the win over Oman, they go to 5. And England have Oman and Namibia, so I think they will need massive wins against both sides, both Oman and Namibia, which is not going to be easy, seeing that they've also put up very good fights against the other teams. So yeah, if Scotland beat Oman by a decent margin, say about 20, 30 runs, 25 runs, it will be difficult for England to make it through from there for sure.
And don't forget the last fixture. Do not forget the last fixture. That is Scotland versus Australia. That's two teams that will be playing against England altogether. If you know, then you know. But Australia being Australia, I won't be surprised if they ensure that Scotland don't lose by a huge margin. They'll probably close down the gap and ensure that Scotland makes it through because, of course, they don't want their arch rivals to make it through. When they are on the brink, why not kick them out? That would be their mentality.
That'll be crazy, right? Like, not only are you going through, but you're ensuring another team is completely kicked out of the tournament. But again, Scotland, USA, Netherlands, and Afghanistan. So that there are chances for 4 unseeded teams to make it through to the Super 8s, which is great for the tournament, for the sport itself. Because if it's going to be the same 6, 7, 8 teams that are making it through to the next round, तो फिर मजा नहीं आएगा. And again, for the uninitiated, Netherlands was a seeded team. They were a part of the 8 teams that directly qualified through to the World Cup, which is why they won't be considered in this unseeded group. But anyways, again, just in case you forgot, all teams that qualify to the Super 8s directly qualify to the next edition of the World Cup as well, which is why they are playing for a lot more than just the trophy, especially the likes of Scotland, Netherlands, US, and all of them. They do want to sort of, be able to play another edition because that means more games, more eyeballs, more financial incentives. So, yeah, fingers crossed that they are able to make it through to the next round as well over there. Of course, time for us to now talk about the top performer of the game. Adam Zampa won the player of the match over there, but we've gone ahead with Pat Cummins over here. The guy was playing his first game of the tournament. He bowled in all 3 phases. He bowled in the power play, bowled in the middle, bowled at the death. And for someone who did that and then only conceded 23 runs while defending 201 against the full-strength English side, Jeet, let's start with you. Fantastic performance from the lad over there. For someone who had potential injury concerns in the first game.
Indeed, I don't think there were injury concerns in the first game. He was just not cherry right. But so England were what? I think 90 for 1, I believe, after 9 or probably even 10 overs. And it's Pat Cummins who came into the attack and bowled 2 run over, after which Adam Zampa capitalized altogether. So this guy was very, very smart in terms of how he bowled. So Aaron Finch was talking about why Australia should prefer Nathan Ellis over Pat Cummins, and I could see where he was coming from. It made complete sense. But at the end of the day, Pat Cummins also bowled really, really well. He was very smart with the lengths that he was bowling in particular. He was going for the Yorkers first up, and then he was smartly dragging the length back and bowling his off cutters, and he was very, very smart altogether in using dimensions. I just saw a comment from Akash. So that's exactly what the point here was with regards to the two bowling sides as well, and how they were bowling at the short boundary on the one side. England were not really smart with how they went about it, but Australia had their plans and they were executing them to perfection. And of course, one of the bowlers who was instrumental to executing those plans to perfection was Pat Cummins, and how he nailed his Yorkers and the lines and lengths and the variations. So fantastic altogether. I had to go for like 23 in 4 overs and pick up 2 wickets. That was phenomenal job on his part.
Again, Pramod bhai, like we spoke about how potentially Cummins and Stark could be the weak links, supposed weak links in that Aussie bowling attack. And for him to be able to come up with a performance like this definitely will, again, boost the morale, because it sort of gives the indication that the entire bowling attack is firing in unison over there.
Yeah, it is. That certainly does that. Yeah, with Cummins, of course, he's developed quite well as a T20 bowler as well. We saw that in the IPL. He bowled the tough overs over there, and he got the rewards. And yesterday, it was, even if it was more about putting England off their momentum. They, as Jeet said, they had 90 runs in 9 overs, and he bowled that crucial two-run over, which sort of helped Zampa, which helped him put the pressure on the batsman and eventually get the wicket. But yeah, I can understand why Zampa got the player of the match over Cummins. Yeah, he removed both the dangerous openers. But yeah, that wouldn't. I don't think that would have been possible completely without the contribution Cummins made in the middle overs.
Definitely couldn't agree with you more there. Of course, no one's disputing Zampa's player of the match award there. We just felt, Cummins for what value he brings to the side and the way he played, which is why we felt he was the top performer of the game. Of course, Adam Zampa in his own right came up with a fantastic performance himself. Akash also sort of rightly talking about Zampa there. Also, Zampa is a good shot to be Australia's best white ball spinner of all time. One would definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, fair to say. I'm pretty sure numbers also sort of, reflect that. Jeet, agree with this, or do you have any other names?
No, I think he's spot on. Even I agree. Adam Zampa has been sensational. So we often talk about how wrist spinners struggle with control and discipline, but we rarely see Adam Zampa struggling for that. He always seems to be in a good rhythm, and he makes the most out of it. So I think it's a fair shout, yeah.
Pramod bhai, in terms of his load up, I don't know if it reminds you of a certain Georgia Warham. Like those two have similar actions in terms of the way they run in and the way they complete their action. But again, Adam Zampa has been phenomenal for Australia. And given how the surfaces aren't expected to crumble going into the Super 8 and potentially the knockout stages, he's definitely going to be a very important cog in the wheel for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zampa is not somebody who turns the ball ferociously or anything. Just line and length and the odd flipper that sort of makes it difficult for him to for the batsman to play. That all of that was in display last night, where he brought all his experience to play, and it's not something that he's been doing now. He was a key figure in Australia's win in the 2021 World Cup as well. And since then he's really developed into one of the best in the world, probably Australia's finest in T20 cricket for sure. So yeah, I think his evolution over the years has been one that I've really enjoyed watching. And if Nathan Lyon is for tests, where they're going with just one spinner everywhere in the world and he gets the job done, I'm sure Adam Zampa is that for them in T20s.
And Adam Zampa is still that traditional wrist spinner who still exists and is doing exceptionally well, because these days the kind of wrist spinners that we are seeing, it's a pretty common pattern where they are quicker through the air or are wrist spinner who rely a lot more on the googlies. But Zampa kind of stands out from that particular group. He's not somebody who really relies on his googlies. He's more of leg breaks, those sliders and occasional googlies. So he's very smart with how he goes about his business. And it works really, really well. And of course, like I mentioned, the key thing to all of this is discipline. He's spot on and he just is never out of form. So Surely impressed with that guy. Very, very good.
Have a controversial opinion. Zampa is what Chahal aspires to be. Just
That's fair.
because they are in the similar mold. Googlies ये सब Chahal भी ज़्यादा नहीं डालता, and of course both of them are attacking leg spinners in their own right, but both of them are fantastic, so not complaining. Meanwhile, let's take a few comments before we move on to the third and final game of yesterday. New Zealand versus West Indies might decide the second game from their group. Would it be West Indies versus Afghanistan? Because I have a feeling New Zealand is out with the kind of loss they had. I potentially think it'll be West Indies, Afghanistan, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you guys make of it?
What is it? Knockout?
Not knockout, but I'm saying West Indies and Afghanistan right now seem to be favorites to make it through to the next round.
That's
So
true.
given
But
that West
you think
Indies
New Zealand?
But New Zealand still have PNG and Uganda to play, so there's no reason why they can't match the net run rate that both teams already have. Plus, of course, they have to beat West Indies to remain in contention. But yeah, I think New Zealand are still very much within the shout, given that they have PNG and Uganda to play. Depends on how big they win in those games that will eventually probably determine whether they go through or not.
But it's true. This is the game that is pretty much going to decide the fate, because if New Zealand lose, then they are surely out. There is no way they are making it through. But at the same time, if West Indies lose, then of course they are not necessarily out, because they've still got Afghanistan at the end. So right now, this is the match that's scheduled next. So I probably think it is a game that's going to decide what really goes on to happen. Because if New Zealand win this particular encounter, only then would West Indies versus Afghanistan potentially become a knockout or a decider as to which is that second team who goes to from that group.
Fair enough, because West Indies, Afghanistan, if I'm not wrong, is the last game of this group. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting there. Shreyansh, meanwhile, asking us, do you think Group B, C, D have an advantage because they're playing games in the Windies? Advantage in what sense though? Like, what do you guys make of the statement? I'm just trying to process it. Like, at the end of the day, every side that's playing, barring the hosts, US and West Indies, are sort of entering the unknowns. It's not like everyone else has an idea of what West Indies pitches are going to be like at this time of the year. So do you think there's any necessary advantage playing in the Windies over the US? Pramod bhai, let's start with you on this.
Yeah, I think historically, at least you have some data or you have some footages to have a look at how these pitches are playing. I think that's what the comment intends to say. Whereas US, New York is a new stadium, and Lauderhill, I'm not sure. Firstly, I don't think there are many matches there. But yeah, and there have been very few games played over there. So in terms of the teams strategizing and planning their tactics, slight advantage probably in the pitches in when the matches are playing in West Indies. But then you still have to go out there and execute your job, execute your role well. At the end of the day, that's what matters.
Do you have thoughts? Do you think that familiarity helps sides? Ki boss, you know what the surface is all about. Do you think that plays a role, or do you think that essentially negates, because every side has access to that data any which ways?
It does, but I don't think it's of a huge concern, because at the end of the day, by andar hi khelna hai. Group A is playing with the teams that they've got, so everybody is in the same boat as far as Group A is concerned. So it's a level playing ground altogether. At the end of the day, nor do the seedings matter. By Group A first and second time, we know how it's going to pan out if we make it to the Super 8s. So it's not a huge deal altogether. But it's just that Super 8s mein fir kya hai, kahan par hai, that is where the advantage, disadvantage can come into play.
Fair enough. Meanwhile, Adhyan saying, Akshay, hi, sawal los, to sawal lete hain yahan pe. Jax got head out in that game versus SRH. How much do you think that impacted the decision of bowling him? Because we don't see often two similar type of bowlers bowling in the opening overs. Even then, Jax got a second over against SRH and he copped a few. He went for 18-19 runs. Head is not a mug against off spin. वो बस starting में थोड़ा कुछ हो सकता है, and that is the best time to get him out. That's pretty much a Jeet. Again, you can probably chip in here. It's not like Head can't handle off spin, right?
No, definitely it's one of his weaker bowling types altogether, but I don't think it was necessary. But even in that game against SRH, it was the first over that he bowled or the second over of the match?
First over of the match, third ball of the innings, he got out.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not necessary, but it's just that how he bowled was something that was of a huge impact, because if you saw then the end from which he was bowling, the leg side was very, very short. and he was bowling those stump line deliveries and at what 84 or 85 Ks, and that made it a lot more simpler for Travis Head to hit those 2 sixes, and even David Warner to cap off with a 6 altogether. So maybe that end-wise something could have been looked into. And anyway, the thing is, you're bowling Moeen Ali in the first over, and you have got the option of Jofra Archer. अगर कोई हो ही नहीं यार, Chris Jordan's the only pacer on your side, then I can understand that kind of a scenario. But I felt it was a little bit unnecessary. That was not really required. I know I'm probably speaking in hindsight because had that move worked, then we would have been praising them. But even then, I don't think it was the right call tactically because they had the options to go to. Because at the end of the day, we know Travis Head and David Warner. Warner has a bad matchup against Jofra Archer. And we know that even Travis Head early on against rapid pace, attacking the stumps or the deliveries that seem away from him, he struggles. He tends to struggle against those kind of deliveries. So maybe Archer could have been the go-to guy for the second over of the game.
Right, but Butler in the post-match he said that this was something that planned well before the match to have Moeen Ali and Jacks go. But at the same time, I think had Moeen Ali gone for say about 15-20 runs in the first over, he might have changed his mind and gone for a pacer probably.
Maybe. We're not sure what happened there. Of course, it's time for us to now talk about the third game that happened. The game that happened in Guyana today morning. West Indies, the hosts, taking on Uganda. Result on expected lines. Matlab, jo bhi ho, at the end of the day, you're talking about West Indies here, who've got a phenomenal side. Probably the closest they've come to fielding a full strength side in a long time. So Uganda definitely seemed all at sea against a top-notch West Indies side who were ruthless. West Indies, of course, winning the toss and opting to bat first. Johnson Charles top scoring for them with a very sort of slow 44. Andy Russell, Rovman Powell, and a couple of other batters also chipping in with crucial cameos for them. With the ball in hand, Brian Masaba once again shining through 2 for 31. Alpesh Ramjani, Dinesh Nakrani, both of them taking a wicket apiece in their spells to ensure that they were able to sort of, restrict West Indies to 173. To be honest, again, bowling-wise, they weren't too bad. The last over went for 18-19 runs, or else they could have probably restricted to West Indies to just 160 to 163 as well. Uganda, in reply, of course, had absolutely no clue what hit them. Well, what hit them was the Akeal Hosein Express, and the guy was, again, well and truly in form. Whether we'll be talking about him later. Juma Miyaji top scoring for them, an unbeaten 13 off 20 balls. For what it's worth, Robinson, Obuya, Alpesh Ramjani were the second and third highest run scorers with 6 and 5 respectively. But again, in terms of how, the lesser known teams face such spinners, Jeet, again, we've spoken about how they are definitely going to find the likes of Akeal, Mujib, all of these spinners who deal in the power play very, very, very difficult to handle. And you sort of saw this coming, right? Maybe not the degree or the extent of it, but Akeal Hosein wreaking havoc was probably written in the stars.
Yeah, I mean, I even anticipated a first over wicket altogether, and that was very, very evident. The first ball that he balled to Roger Mukasa, that was a fantastic orthodox delivery that spun sharply away from him. So, seeing that kind of turn, Roger Mukasa went to reverse sweep a switch hit of the second ball, and of course, it was an arm ball that drifted very sharply into Mukasa, and he was done for all money. And that is exactly how he outfoxed the other batters as well. It was a very, very simple strategy, and it's a strategy that has worked against some of the top nations as well. So it was always on the cards. So it was not entirely surprising. And that's where I was kind of very clear that probably the best way to go about it for Uganda would be to bowl first. I know it was the West Indies who won the toss, but just bowl first. West Indies would get somewhere in between 150 200, which is what they got, 170 odd. Just bat out 20 overs. Even if you score 20 runs of 20 overs, it does not matter. But just bat out. Don't go chasing for that target because realistically, it's not going to happen. Plus, we know that the pitch is not there for you to actually score so many runs because it was the same track as yesterday where the New Zealand versus Afghanistan game was played. It was very hard in the second innings as well, despite the new factor being off an influence. So these guys were going after it, which is fine. I mean, I don't really blame them for that, but it was something that we anticipated.
And this is something, I'm not sure who was the commentator on call then. Probably was it Simon Dool, maybe? I don't know if Simon Dool is calling the World Cup. But he basically spoke about how Akeal Hosein has always started with a conventional off spinner and then goes for the in-dipper. But he himself wanted Akeal to bluff the batter this time around because batters will be expecting him to bowl the in-dipper. Do bar off spinner dal do. Akeal stuck to his plans, and To be honest, I don't blame Mukasa. उसको लगा कि भाई फिर से ऑफ स्पिन करेगा तो रिवर्स भी पटन करने जाता, but Akeal Hosein is just something else with that new ball, and good to see him sort of get that rhythm back, because he didn't seem in the greatest of form entering the World Cup, which is why we weren't sure what version of Akeal Hosein is going to come in. Pramod bhai, you can also chip in. Batting was always going to be Uganda's weaker suit, and which is why we'd spoken about how probably the best bet is to just bowl first and then batting में कम से कम 20 ओवर खेलने का देखो तो सही, but you can't blame them for being blown away like this.
Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, there was some positives, not in the batting, of course. Of course, we spoke about how well they bowled throughout this tournament. It was quite similar to this time as well. But yeah, as far as batting is concerned, yeah, they were all out for just 12 overs. But you can't really blame them when Akeal Hosein is bowling like that, and you're facing him for the first time. Always going to be difficult. But yeah, if you want to talk about positives, there was the fast bowler Cosmas Kweyuta, who really did well. I think he was quite good in the start, and especially in the death. That ball to dismiss Sherfin Rutherford was absolutely a dream ball. Right on his legs, on leg and middle, and it just crashed into the wickets. Unfortunately, he gave away 18 runs in the last over, which I think was poorly planned actually. When he was going to bowl full and wide, they had the third man up, they had point up, so it was just easy pickings for someone of the caliber of Russell. But I think barring that, I don't think at any point West Indies really ran away with the game. Jonathan Charles really struggled early on. He scored 40, but then it took him a while. There was a dropped catch as well. I think Riaz had dropped a catch at mid-off. Had he taken that catch, I'm sure there would have been about 15-20 runs shorter. You never know. Even Nicholas Pooran could not really dominate. Yeah, they were very good. I think they bowled well in tandem. And Shota, even in the African qualifiers, and I think along with Juma Miyagi, I think both of them, bowled very well at the death. They executed their plans. So this is nothing new for Uganda as far as bowling well, but good fast bowling is concerned. But yeah, they have to do something about their batting. At least look to play 20 overs as you said. But yeah, I mean there are still positives. The first time they're playing the World Cup, so plenty of positives to take, I'm sure. And I'm sure if they make it to the next World Cup, they'll be much better than this.
For sure over there. And of course, Kweyuta is a name that even Jeet had mentioned yesterday in terms of the players he'll be looking forward to from Uganda. Did start off well, barring that last over, of course, the way he sort of copped a few blows over there in his last over. And Jeet, again, in terms of the bowling effort, all in all, not a bad effort at all. Like Pramod mentioned, West Indies hardly ran away with the bat in hand. Johnson Charles struggled, so did Nicholas Pooran, and that's no mean feat.
By the way, Johnson Charles 44 or 42 was worse than Quinton de Kock 0 of 0 yesterday. It was that horrible. Itna ganda khel raha tha. He was not able to middle a single ball. But coming to the bowling, they were spot on from the very first ball that Kweyuta bowled. He was on the money. The very first ball itself, top of off, and Johnson Charles had to defend at that. It's only, I don't know, for some weird reason, he started going cross deep from third ball, and it didn't come out really well. It turned out to be low full toss, but it was sensational. And yesterday, I mean, so far I thought that, okay, maybe Cosmas Kweyuta is somebody who can hit a tops of 140. But no, even Juma Miyagi clocked over 135. And both these guys were absolutely brilliant. I know maybe their figures don't do a lot of justice. Even at the back end, Kweyuta, 12 of the runs that he conceded in the last 2 overs that he bowled at the back end were off an outside edge that Russell got, that went for a 4. And that is what ruined his figures. But other than that, I think both these pacers were absolutely brilliant. For some weird reason, Alpesh Ramjani only bowled 3 overs when he could have bowled 4 overs. And even in the power play, the very first over that Alpesh Ramjani bowled in the game, that was a brilliant over. So he didn't get the follow-up over. He bowled later on the power play. We could have probably gone for another over of Alpesh Ramjani altogether. But all in all, I was very impressed with their pacers. Even at the back end, the kind of yorkers that these guys were nailing, man, they were outstanding. And Kweyuta was just pumped up. He was getting into the face of Sharma Rutherford when he bowled that cracking yorker. He got into his face with that celebration and that you're in my pocket and all that stuff. So he did the same thing. He was giving a stare down to Andre Russell, Romario Shepherd. So that guy was pumped at the back end. I was kind of enjoying that show altogether. He bowled really well. Sadly, the figures didn't do justice. And sadly, like I mentioned yesterday, Kenneth Wiseau also didn't get a single over altogether, which was quite disappointing. But at the end of the day, even this guy, Dinesh Nakrani bowled really, really well.
Yeah.
The seam ups were there, the off cutters were there, and even the back of the hands. He had the variations as well. So at the end of the day, the kind of pace that he bowls at would look innocuous in nature, but it's really effective with the kind of variations he's got. So he was nailing them fairly well. I know the wicket that he got was off a full toss altogether, but all in all, it was really, really good, including the skipper Brian Masaba, who according to the broadcast is a seamer, but he bowled really, really smartly. So we talk about Liam Livingston, all these off spinners who have the ability to bowl off spin to left handers and wrist spin or leg breaks to the right handers. Well, Brian Masaba did exactly that as well. He was bowling off spin to the left handers, Nicholas Pooran, and I don't think he bowled to Shafin Rutherford, but leg break to the right handers. And how he dismissed Pooran also was very, very smart. So all these spinners generally stick to that 4 to 6 meter mark, and that is their ideal length, but it's more towards the 4 meters. But the wicket that he got of Nicholas Pooran was more towards that 6 meter mark. It was a little bit shorter, and the kind of hold that the pitch had, Nicholas Pooran just went back and he couldn't hit or he couldn't middle the ball. It came off the splice in his done. So very, very smart altogether. And he also had Robin Powell in his sides altogether, and he had no answers as well. And brilliant catch to cap it off.
100%. And also, just adding to what Masaba, the way he bowled, definitely a name the three of us enjoyed watching in the first couple of games as well. One more thing, I mean, this is a slight digression. Ake Bilyas bowls only leg spin, or he also bowls the off spinners? For some reason, I have the recollection he does, right? He also does that.
He does, yeah. He also has got both varieties.
Chalo, let's take this question by Paris. He wants to know any idea why Johnson Charles is playing over the likes of Shai Hope, Shimron Hetmyer, Kyle Mayers didn't even make it to the squad. Any idea what's so special about him? Bhai, numbers jaake dekh lo yaar. From last year, in the last 15 months, the guy has a strike rate of 180. Let's not go by just one or two performances in the World Cup. He definitely deserved a spot. And anyway, Shai Hope, Shimron Hetmyer, he's not competing for the same spot any which way. So I don't think the comparison is right. Kyle Mayers, sure, he definitely will be disappointed and has a reason to feel so. He's not done too badly himself, but Johnson Charles getting the cut over him is not something, you can sort of be too bothered about. Also, Raj Limbo is a very interesting troll name for Raj Limbani if and when he does become popular enough. Just wanted to put that out there. From India, KL Rahul and Babar do not deserve international modern day cricket. All right, thank you so much. But Nihal Das is an interesting question. Roston Chase did not bat or bowl. Any injury concerns? Any or nothing, right?
I mean, was he even required to bowl a bat at all? I mean,
Yeah.
although there was no point in him doing either.
Look, the whole point of West Indies opting to bat first was to give a bit of more game time of batting, I would say, practice to Shafin Rutherford and Romario Shepherd, Andre Russell. They wanted these batters to spend more time in the middle. Roston Chase has been batting for such a long time, even against South Africa in the bilateral. He was there. He batted a lot, and even in the first game, he got enough game time. So the whole idea of batting first here for West Indies was to actually ensure that all the batters get a good run before the big games come, because now the big games start, New Zealand and Afghanistan. So they wanted all these batters to spend some time in the middle, whereas Roston Chase already has. So that is the reason why he didn't have a role or any role to play for this game.
It was just situational, nothing to be worried about. Nani asking, is Avnish in the US? No, he isn't. He's very much in Bangalore, probably sleeping or chilling right now. Let's hope he's all up and running for the India-Pakistan game tonight, which we will be doing a watch-along for. So make sure you guys tune in at 8 p.m. sharp tonight, guys. Indian Standard Time, of course, goes without saying. Did you guys watch all the 4 games from 5 a.m. IST Saturday to 1 a.m. IST Sunday? I mean, I don't think, like we said earlier, we do try our best to follow all the games because there's no shortcut to it. It's not like we can just look at the scorecards and then pull a rabbit out of our hats. So of course we do follow all the games. Maybe not all 40 overs of every game, but जितना हो सकता है पूरा देख लेते हैं और जितना नहीं हो सकता जाके replays देखते हैं, highlights देखते हैं and stuff like that. But to the best of our abilities, of course, we do follow every game because that's what we do for a living. So we're not complaining over there. Anyways, time for us to now talk about the top performer of the game again. Make no mistake, there was only one contender for it. And of course, it is the one and only Akeal Hosein. A fantastic spell from the lad there. 5 wickets for 11 runs. 4 overs, 19 dot balls. That's ridiculous. To be able to bowl 19 dot balls after bowling 3 overs in the power play, I mean, someone should just, like, wow. Like, Pramod bhai, let's start with you. That the way he drifts the ball, the way he gets the ball to turn, he has both the variations. Fantastic performance from the guy there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Akeal Hosein is someone who is a very good bowler in the power play. He's shown that in the past of how he sort of makes you sort of makes the batsman hit where basically the trap is set. And I think that requires special skills. Of course, he's able to bowl absolutely every ball in the book. The finger spinner, the one that skids on, and where he's the best thing is he sort of varies his pace as well quite well according to the demands. Not as in terms of pace, not as good in varying it as someone like a Mitch Santner, but yeah, he gets the job done. And yeah, today you can't really go by whether his form has been good or bad. Today it was just the fact that it was against Uganda, and I mean, no disrespect to them, they are a very mediocre batting side, if I may say so. So, but yeah, he did. I mean, he did execute his skills very well, and yeah, full credit to him for those 5 wickets.
Yep, couldn't agree more there. And Jeet, again, Akeal Hosein shot the side wasn't the greatest of batting sides, but even then, the consistency with which he gets the ball to curve in and the control with which he's also able to get the ball to turn away, whenever he wants it to, just that's lethal, to be honest.
Yeah, and even talking about 19 dot balls, I remember I think Frank Subuga bowled 20 dot balls against PNG. So it was not entirely surprising for the class that Akeal Hosein has at the end of the day, but it takes me back to like 3 or 4 years ago when Trinidad had Khari Pierre as their power play specialist, as a left-arm spinner. And that guy was outstanding. For Akeal Hosein to come up the ranks and replace Khari Pierre, somebody like Khari Pierre in the power play, and now also make it to the national side and still continue to have the same impact in the power play, talks volumes about what this guy's got and the ability he's got. So you talk about all these left arm spinners and how they are power play specialists, because there is a very common pattern to them with regards to what kind of variations they bowl, the orthodox and the kind of arm balls that drift back into the right handers. But this guy again kind of stands out because he's got a lot more variations up his sleeve in terms of how he even varies his pace. It's a lot better. So I was thinking of Imad Wasim, but then he's not exactly like Imad Wasim either. He's got slightly better variations, and he's fairly pinpoint as well. Against left-handed batters also, the ball does really well in terms of drifting away from them. So he's been fantastic, and his development over the years has been outstanding to watch. But I'm just very curious to see how he goes about it against stronger teams, and that is where his mettle will be tested, because yeah, he's out of form, and as Pramod mentioned, against Uganda it was slightly easy altogether. It was an easier route to kind of get back into that form. But how he continues and how he backs it up against the bigger opponents is going to decide how he exactly goes about it.
Definitely, and of course, coming from a very tough region in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. I remember Ian Bishop talking about how he's not had the easiest of childhoods, lived in a very tough neighborhood, to say the least, one that involved a lot of gunfights and whatnot. And for him to be able to come out of those streets and make it to the national side speaks volumes about the guy's courage and the sort of strength that he possesses. So fingers crossed, onwards and upwards for him. I actually again, in mind, I was coming up with these. I have this tendency to come up with imaginary battles in my head. I really want to see Abhishek Sharma take on Akeal Hosein. I feel an informed Akeal Hosein against Abhishek Sharma will be a very mouth-watering contest, because Abhishek Sharma, Akeal Hosein, both of them won't back down. They will be up for the fight. Kya lagta hai, Jeet? I feel you have a thought about this.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe that I was thinking about Abhishek Sharma only, but this is more regards to the bowling. So Akeal Hosein's arm balls, they are basically in drifters. So it's very similar to even the Abhishek Sharma. It's basically flicking it, and the seam is pointing towards the fine leg, and that's why they drift in like that. It's more like an in swing altogether. It's not really that kind of an arm ball altogether. But that is where I was thinking of Abhishek Sharma. But yeah, you're right. It could be very interesting, but I'm tilted towards Akeal Hosein for that battle. I think he might as well take it. Because
That'll be
look, at
nice
the end of
because
the
I'm
day,
pretty sure he's coming round the wicket. He's not coming over the wicket to him. And I'll be very interested to see. I hope, because he'll have to cut that angle down. Again, sorry guys, random
yeah,
cutting. But he'll have to come down the wicket. Very interested. Anyways, we'll take this chat off air if and when we want to discuss this. Subhash, meanwhile, saying Oz versus Scotland is the last match of the group, and Aussies can decide England's fate for the Super 8s. Remember the 99 World Cup? I literally spoke about this off air to Jeet. 99 World Cup, Australia West Indies was the final group stage game. Australia were through to the playoffs, to the Super 8s, but because of how the points table worked back then, they had to ensure that they finished in the top position, which is why they had to defeat West Indies by a certain lower run rate. Like, that's how twisted that World Cup was. So they just played it out. So they were, from what I remember, this is off the top of my mind, there was an 8-over phase where they scored just 6 runs. They just kept doing this, and they had to send in 2 or 3 bottles. Ki boss, jaldi abhi itna nahi ho sakta. This would seem very fishy if you keep intentionally slowing the game down. But yeah, I did
भाई
remember
होने वाला
that
है.
game.
I'm I'm already calling it. This is something that is going to happen realistically because we know the kind of results that we're going to have. Scotland are potentially going to win against Oman, and England are potentially going to have wins against Oman and Namibia by a significant margin. So it is probably going to come down to that clash against Scotland. Sorry, between Scotland and Australia. And Australia, being Australia, might as well play to ensure that Scotland goes through.
For now, let's just hope they control the controllables. जो matches जीतने वो जीत जाए. उसके बाद we will talk about that as well in due course. Anyways, now it is time for us to wrap the first segment up and go on. Move on to the second segment, which is of course talking about what is happening in social media, what's doing the rounds over there. Of course, we're talking about what's trending. A segment where we talk about the ins and outs of social media, what's doing the rounds, what were people talking about. Let's have the graphic out straight away. 3 matches that happened. The first match, of course, was Australia versus England. For those who watch WWE, they will know what the clip is all about. It's John Cena taking the Mickey out of the Miz, just thrashing, absolutely thrashing there. And that's exactly what Australia handed England, a proper hammering of a defeat over there. And secondly, of course, West Indies, Uganda. We cannot look past the margin of victory over there. 134 runs was the margin of victory. West Indies defeating Uganda by 134 runs. The second highest margin, or second biggest margin in the history of the World Cups, and the highest since the inaugural edition. Just going on to show how rare there is for a team to be able to come up with such a comprehensive victory. Not to forget Uganda's total of 39 also being the second joint lowest total in the history of the World Cups. They're joint lowest, and they're tied with Netherlands, if I'm not wrong, from the 2014 World Cup. And of course, lastly, it is the tweet, the meme that I genuinely enjoyed looking at. When I suddenly started watching the Australia-England match and find out that Australia has already scored 14 overs after watching a 100-run thriller between Netherlands and South Africa on a dead pitch. Me. What on earth is this shit? But to be honest, I also understand this sort of just makes the game that much more complicated to, incoming viewers. They might just be thinking, वहां पे ऑस्ट्रेलिया तो आराम से 100-150 रन बना रहा है 15 ओवर में, यहाँ पे इनसे 20 ओवर में 100 रन नहीं बन रहा है, चल क्या रहा है बॉस? But that's the beauty of it. That's what separates cricket from other sports, because the surface, the conditions, all of that external factors play that bigger role, which is why it sort of makes it for so much more entertaining viewing. There's so many moving parts, there's so many variables involved in the game, which is why we love the sport and do what we do, of course. Now it is, of course, time for us to quickly move on to the next segment, which involves all you guys out there. Of course, I know Jeet and Pramod are also eagerly waiting for this as well. This time, open challenge to both of them. Private chat में इस बार सही आंसर बता के दिखाओ. इस बार हमने क्वेश्चन पेपर बहुत टफ सेट किया. Anyways, let's have this thing out very quickly. Of course, we're talking about Who Am I? Well, a segment where we involve you guys, ask you guys to get all chatty in the main comment section at the end of the live stream and try and guess these players based on the hints we give you. Let's have yesterday's giveaway out first. Of course, these were the 3 hints given to you yesterday. I hold the record for scoring the most T20 centuries for my country. I've played under Tim Southee's captaincy alongside Colin de Grandhomme and Mark Chapman. And thirdly, I quit pursuing a degree in business to focus on cricket. These were the three hints given to you. For some reason, our viewers went ahead with two Proteas who moved to New Zealand as their answers, but none of them were right. I saw answers of Colin Munro, Glenn Phillips. I'm not sure if either of them have ever stated that they quit a degree in business to pursue cricket. I searched it myself just to make sure कि boss ऐसा ना हो कि there are multiple answers to this, but there's no discernible answer for that. The only correct answer to that is Mr. Aaron Johnson, the current Canadian opener. And for those of you who want to read more about what his story is all about, of course, you can check out Pramod's article. He did interview Aaron Johnson, and Aaron spoke about him candidly, about his life, about his journey to Canada from West Indies and pursuing a career in cricket over there. So that was yesterday's contest. Now coming to today's giveaway, these are the three hints. There you go. I share my name with several popular people, including an American musician. In 2015, I hit a six that blinded a police officer in one eye. I top scored for my side on T20 I debut. So these are the three hints given to you. Let us see what's happening. Of course, Pramod and Jeet trying to get all chatty over there in the private chat. But these are the three hints once again. I share my name with several popular people, including an American musician. In 2015, I hit a six that blinded a police officer in one eye. I top scored for my side on T20 I debut is the third hint. So these are the three hints given. Of course, guys, like always, please wait for the live stream to end. Do not enter your answers in the live chat. You're only going to help your fellow viewers. You've got to wait for the live stream to end and key in your answers at the end of the live stream in the main comment section to be eligible to win a cool 500 rupee voucher. So let's see who is going to win that. And now, of course, moving on to the last segment of today's episode, of course, we are going to be talking about the games that are coming our way today and tomorrow morning. Let's have this thing out. We are talking about Let's Look Ahead. Well, let's look ahead. It is. We've got not too many fixtures, thankfully, because India-Pakistan is going to be taking up a lot of, the sort of broadcasters' time, viewers' time. Thankfully, ICC has put just another game along with it. Of course, it is Oman versus Scotland coming our way from Antigua. That game starts at 10:30 p.m. sharp. And that's the only game we will be talking about tonight, or rather today, thankfully. Pramod bhai, let's start with you. An important game for both sides, even more so for Scotland, given how the group and the sides are panning out for them over there. Kya lagta hai yahan pe?
I'm still trying to figure out who am I was, but okay, never mind. I mean, interesting game in terms of what it means to the group. Scotland need to win this. I think they, by in all likeliness, will win this, and it really puts England more on the back foot, doesn't it? From here, if that does happen. And I mean, given the way Scotland have played in their first two games, I know we saw very little of them against England, but I think they've been very, very good, very clinical this time around. They did really well against Namibia. It's not easy to outsmart Namibia and get over the line against them. They've struggled in the past. That was their first ever win over Namibia. So I think they're very, very well equipped, very well. I think they've planned it well. So I think Oman, on the other hand, were there in the game against Australia up to a certain point, and we all know what happened against Namibia. A game again that potentially they could have won despite putting up not many on the board. I think they can be very proud of the way they were in the game against Australia for such a long time. I think that is the confidence that they will hopefully take into this game against Scotland.
Interesting. Let's see what sort of confidence do Oman themselves come in against Scotland, like Pramod bhai mentioned. Jeet, what about you in terms of the game? What are a few pointers you're looking forward to? Because like Prayash has mentioned, what happened to Akeal Bilyas's trash talking, Jeet? To be honest, they put up a good showing against Australia. I mean, I don't think they'll be too upset about the performance that day. But anyways, Oman, Scotland, kya laga? It's also going to be the first game in Antigua, if I'm not wrong. So we're not sure how the surface is going to play over there. Fingers crossed it'll be a much better surface than what we've seen in New York, at least. But all in all, who start favourites for you, and what are you expecting from the surface?
Favourites, of course, is Scotland again for this particular encounter because of the kind of form they've got. But here I'd like to focus more on Scottish pacers here. And that is with regards to the venue. So, of course, like you mentioned, it's the first game that's taking place at Antigua. And the last time a top ranked team played in Antigua was way back in 2013. The last set of games that have taken place at this venue, I'm talking about only the T20 format, has been, that was in 2021, which was the qualifiers, the America qualifiers. So we saw all these teams like Argentina and Canada and all these teams
Bahamas,
play and get
Panama.
involved. Yeah, so that was back in 2021. So even that was a long time ago. But the last game was played by Canada, and they had Dylan Helliger pick up a 5-wicket haul. And the Pacers basically had a very good outing in most of the games that were played back in 2021 in the qualifiers. So that's what I'm thinking that, okay, if the conditions are very, very similar, then maybe the Pacers might have a bigger say because we, of course, haven't had games in Antigua for a while. So I'm expecting the surfaces to be a lot more fresher. There should be a decent covering of grass. So I'm straight away tilted towards thinking that the Scottish Pacers shall enjoy it because of the kind of quality they've got and the kind of variety that they've got in the attack with the extra space of Chris Soule, the left arm variety of Brad Curry, and the right arm experienced Brad Veal. McMullen may or may not bowl. I'm not too sure about that, but I think they are a lot more well-rounded in terms of the pace that they've got in the spin attack as well. A lot more better when I stack it up or compare it with the Oman's pace attack or the spin attack. And not only that, but even the Scottish bowlers are in good form. I know Mark Watt had an off day last time around, but that's fine. You are allowed to have those bad days in this format of the game. But more than anything, it's about the confidence as well, because Scotland, of course, are riding very high on confidence after game one itself against England. It's just 10 overs, but coming out with 90 without loss in that game and then following it up with a sensational win against Namibia, they would be riding very high on confidence as compared to Oman, who could have eked out a win against Australia, but they were dented in the very first game against Namibia, where again it was very similar scenario. They could have won that game too. So had they come on the back of at least one win out of those two games, then the situation could have been different. But right now, I believe for Oman, it has already become a matter of just salvaging some pride, whereas Scotland know they are in the chance. They know that if they win this particular game, then they can potentially make it through next stage. So they'll be a lot more comfortable coming into this game, and they have got quite a few players who are in form.
You have no idea the number of times I've played that Ian can't drop catch or rather missed catch of Marcus Stoinis over there. Just thinking he was, because imagine an upset, upset to Australia. That would have been great.
They almost pulled it
mentality.
off.
क्या करें? Anyways, I mean,
actually
Pramod,
another different reason, completely offbeat reason of why Scotland should make it through is probably in the next World Cup. Then we'll have a new European team coming up and playing in the tournament. So yeah, I think last year, as we discussed, Ireland almost lost to Italy and they didn't make it. Next year in India, I think 2026, we might actually see Italy making their debut. So that's another my ulterior motive of sort of having Scotland making it through.
because if Scotland make it through, they don't play the qualifiers. So
yeah, they don't play the
qualifiers.
qualifiers. Yeah. So basically,
Okay,
from
wow.
that, obviously, and unfortunately, Ireland will again make it through. Unfortunately, from the qualifiers, because they're that strong.
Associate cricket के साथ प्रमोद भाई.
I want Josie to go through because then you'll see what the likes of Elliot Miles and John T. Jenner and all these guys have got.
Yeah.
Because all these, look, the point is the viewers have seen what Mark Watt is capable of, but they haven't seen what someone like Elliot Miles has got because he's very similar to those smart left arm spinners and the kind of variations that guy's got. So I'm just hoping it is Josie.
All right, let's see. And of course, Pramod bhai, we know Scotland's bowling is very well rounded. They've got plenty of options, be it spinners, be it pacers as well. I mean, spin might not be as strong as pace, but pacers maybe koi kami nahi hai. They've got left arm pacer, they've got a right arm pacer, they've got people who can move the ball, people who can bowl at the back end. But batting wise, Michael Jones has definitely come good for them in the last two games. And given how Oman's bowling is their strongest suit, so essentially the matchup is going to be between Oman's bowling and how much can they restrict Scotland to make a game out of it, which is why Scotland's batting is going to sort of be in the limelight a lot more. What are you looking at? What are some names? What are some batters and key battles that you're looking forward to over there?
Yeah, look, Scotland came out unscathed against England, so their openers. So I don't think them facing quality bowlers is much of an issue at all. They did well against Namibia as well. You know, when against Trumpelman and Shikongo and all those guys. So I don't see areas where I think Oman can trouble them that much. But yeah, some battles that I'm really looking forward to is probably in the, Bilal Khan versus George Muncy, probably. You know, to get him to move that ball away and probably get the hit top off or get a caught behind and things like that. So that is definitely one battle to watch out for. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to say some tough choices. Actually, I think even in the middle overs, I think that leg spin, I forgot his name, who came in the last game.
Who's
Anyway.
Scotland's leg spinner?
No, Oman's leg. No, okay, maybe I'm thinking of some other team.
Akib Ilyas, no.
Yeah, of course.
Akib-
Akeal Ilyas, of course, and of course, I'm really curious to see how Mehran Khan goes as well. He did really well in both the games. I think so far. I think he was probably the standout bowler. So I think he'll be an interesting guy against to test out the middle order of Scotland. Probably the likes of Richie Berrington and Michael Leask. I think he'll have a go at them a little bit more. And in terms of players to watch out for, I think by now we've established that Michael Jones is a deserved starter in this Scotland side. So I'm
Yeah,
really happy that he's vindicated us to
one of those
to-
rare players who've done well after doing an interview with Pramod, I guess.
let's not go there. I hope no player is watching this right now. So yeah, so I mean, excellent performance from him. But I really want to see Brandon McMillan among some runs. I think he's not been too among the runs in the last two games. So he's somebody who's got the potential, but has not really converted it. And Mark Watt, I'm really hoping that he comes back to form in this game. They really need Mark Watt for this game, and hopefully he comes good.
All right. Just a couple of things. Jeet, Scotland, of course, most likely will sort of remain unchanged given that they are playing their solid first 11 and they all seem to be working well for them. Oman, in that sense, they've been playing Shakil Ahmed in the first couple of games. They've got Zishan Maqsood who can do the very same thing. Fayaz Butt is a name who's been missing out. We don't know what Antigua is going to offer as a venue, but do you see any changes over there in the Oman setup at least?
Yeah,
Or
it's the
Rafiul?
first thing that. Yeah, sadly, Rafiullah also hasn't been picked. But having said that, the very first team that he took out of Shakil Ahmed, there is a good chance that Fayaz Butt might get a look in for this game ahead of Shakil Ahmed. And like you mentioned, the Pacers have dominated at Antigua historically. So if Oman do their research, then maybe that is something that they might as well come up with. But secondly, again, I'm not too sure if Rafiullah is going to get a look in or not, because in last game I wanted him to come in place of Mohammad Nadeem. Now what happened is Mohammad Nadeem did go out, but he went out for... Whom did he go out for? He went out for somebody. I'm not too sure in place of whom.
Shoaib.
Shoaib, yeah. They had picked Shoaib Khan for extra batting depth, which is something that we had discussed, that they required batting depth. But they sadly preferred Shoaib Khan over Rafiullah. So whether they go to Rafiullah over Shoaib for this particular game, I don't know. But I do see a chance of Shakil Ahmed this time around going out and Fayaz Butt probably coming in his side, because he would want that experience as well. Make no mistake, I was personally very impressed with the kind of deliveries that Shakil bowled. He was really quick through the air and he was troubling David Warner, to be fair. Eventually, I know his figures are not good, but he was really impressive. But this time around, I do believe that Oman will back the experience of Fayaz Butt.
All right, there you go. You've heard it from us. Oman versus Scotland. That game's happening at 10:30 p.m. tonight, Indian Standard Time. A couple of hours before that, of course, is going to be the marquee game, probably the only game that people have heard of this World Cup. It's India taking on Pakistan, 8 a.m. 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And of course, that game's coming live from New York. Make sure you guys tune into our channel as well, because we will be doing a watch along for that. Avnish, Nikhil, and Vikas, all three of them will be reacting to the game. It's a goodbye from us right now, because we've covered all the three games that happened yesterday. We've covered the one game that's going to happen before tomorrow's episode. Thankfully, not a lot of games in the next couple of days, so we can also heave a sigh of relief. Nahi to bhai, sleep cycles ki like a certain Jesha had also indicated earlier. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed the coverage just as much as we did. And of course, best of luck for tonight's game. Whoever you want to win wins the game. Let's hope that happens. It's a goodbye from all of us. See you guys soon within the next 24 hours, that is. Until then, have a great evening and have a great weekend.